with meal planning, right, you're gonna save money and you're gonna save time if you start out with doing this. With the money thing, right, like when you cook one really fancy meal every week from a cookbook that you love or you saw on like, you know, a newsletter that you got or something, you're gonna buy all these ingredients for one thing, you're gonna eat it once. It's gonna look great, you'll post it on Instagram, it's wonderful, and then you're gonna be left with like all these like fancy-ish ingredients that you're just not gonna use unless you try to use them again, right? Love it, it's fun to cook that way, absolutely, but it's just not gonna save you money to cook that way, right? With time, when you're thinking about like cooking every night, right, it definitely does take up some time. So trying to have things pre-cooked, or at least for half of the week, it does save you time in the long run. It does cost you time though in one kind of chunk, right? So for those of you who've done it in the past, it does take, you know, I'd say about half of a day. And if you can do that all at once, I think it's easiest to just get it all out of the way during one day. You can kind of divide it up into like a shopping planning day and then a prep cooking day. But it does end up saving time. Other good reasons to meal plan is thinking about portions, right? So when you prep all of your food for the week, it's a lot easier to avoid the leftovers when you're like cleaning up. It's a lot easier to already know what you need because ideally when you're meal planning you've measured everything into the containers and you already know what you're getting. Now that's not to say that you can't go back and have a second serving of something that was delicious, it's just that you're going to know ahead of time that you're having 2 servings. So when we talk about kind of improving diet quality, there's definitely the piece of nutrition education, right, and then the piece of actually doing it. But I'm definitely gonna just review a little bit about what I view to be kind of a balanced diet. So my plate isn't perfect. There's lots of things that I don't love about the My Plate graphic, but when we're talking about a starting point, it's a really great place to start when we're talking about how to create a balanced meal. So when we're thinking about meal planning, to improve your diet quality through meal planning, we're really looking to improve and eat more of the things: fruits, vegetables, dried or canned beans, dried or roasted nuts, whole grains, lean proteins, dairy, oils, and seeds. Some basics around meal planning, right? So the thing about meal planning is that it can be daunting, right? Has anyone ever felt that way? Like, oh, it's gonna be a lot of work for me to plan out all my meals on one day, right? So the thing that I always help people to start with is it should be simple first, variety second. So that's the first thing. So if you've never really tried this, thinking about just the simplest thing that you can prep for the whole week and being ready to go. For example, like this last week, I just made a bunch of like chicken in my crock pot and I shredded it, right? And I put it in one big container and it had salsa flavoring and I used like little harissa sauce and I had it all week, right? That was my chicken, that was my protein. It was so simple. It really took only 4 hours and at least my proteins for dinner was done, right? I didn't do a whole like meal, right? I didn't do the grain, I didn't do the vegetables, I didn't do anything else, I just did the protein. And then I figured out the rest of that every night. So that's when I say simple, like start with one thing, right? If it's rice and beans, if it's vegetables, if you just want to roast 2 trays of vegetables on the weekend and have those in the fridge and then figure out the rest of it every time you come home, start with that. If you want to do like one soup or one like chili, right? Just start with one baby thing and then add in the other pieces. Don't feel like you have to do breakfast, lunch, and dinner for the whole week with all the containers all set up. The first week you try to do it because it is a little daunting. So the next kind of principle of meal planning is thinking about elevating your cooking on the weekend even to the level of batch cooking so that you do have extras to freeze. And this is where it gets tricky, right? But if you can cook enough for what you want to eat during the week, but even enough to freeze, then some week that you really don't feel like doing your Sunday routine, you just unthaw some stuff from the freezer and you have food that's ready to go, right? So if you can cook that extra couple portions, that's really going to save you time in a few weeks. So here are kind of the step-by-step recommendations for how to get this meal planning under your belt. So step 1, right? Looking ahead at your week, trying to decide if there's any like free lunches at work that you're going to take advantage of. There's always free lunch, right? Trying to figure out if there's any like social plans that you already have kind of in your calendar, deciding about dinner time, if there's a time you're not going to be home for dinner, deciding about breakfast, trying to pick out like the mornings that you're going to have 0 time versus the ones that you're going to have a little bit more time to do some prep work at home before you leave for work. And then kind of create the recipe list that you're going to use for that week. So this is kind of going all in, right? This step-by-step is planning out every single meal. So like I said, you don't have to do this to begin with. Doing 1 or 2 things is definitely going to help you out. If you are thinking about trying to kind of do the whole like all the containers labeled every day, this is what I would do. So I would pick out recipes to fit what I needed to do. So thinking about how many dinners you need, how many people you need to feed, how many dinners that's going to require, how many lunch recipes that's going to need, and then looking in your pantry, creating a grocery list. Right? I would recommend getting a sheet that you use every week that you're really used to. This is something we designed for another workshop here, but looking through your week, those boxes are supposed to be like breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack, right, for each day of the week. Listing your recipes up at the top, trying to figure out what you're going to eat for each time, and then making your grocery list on the side. Double check, making sure you have like the basics in your pantry. It's no fun when you come home and realize like you're out of olive oil and then you have to go back just for like something you should have felt like you had. And then making sure to specifically write down the amounts of things that you need. So just writing down like chicken really doesn't help if you realize you need it for 2 recipes, right? Or you need not as much as you buy and then you have all this fresh chicken, right? So definitely writing down the amounts. Then go to the store, right? Buy all the stuff. So thinking about if you're not prepping that day, where to store your ingredients. So making sure that you have space set aside so that if you're not cooking them all up, that you have the prepped places to stay. If you're gonna freeze stuff, like taking the time to do that, but obviously if you're gonna cook like within the next day or two, or day, you're gonna wanna keep everything. So then the prep, like, this is where you like get the recipes out, and honestly I would recommend doing every bit of prep work all at once. So setting up the cutting boards, getting out all those little dishes that you have that you don't know what to use them for, right? Putting all the ingredients out before you even start assembling everything. So chopping it all up, getting it kind of in your cooking zone. It's gonna make it just much easier when you're assembling things to be able to grab the little dishes of everything and just put it all together, rather than like stopping and starting to do all this other prep work as you go. All right, and then as far as like cooking goes, if you're using a slow cooker, that's what I would assemble first. So on this like one day, right, you went to the grocery store, you made your list, you have all your stuff, you've cut it all up, you put anything that goes in the slow cooker goes on first. So whatever that recipe is. Then making any sort of like sauce or dressings or dips or anything that like needs to be assembled, that's something you can do while the slow cooker is running. The roasting, steaming, baking any ingredients like on a pan or frying or like on the saute pan, that goes next because that doesn't take super long. And then I would get out your containers, assemble your meals, and then storing it. It's really important to label like what it is and how long it's going to last if you're freezing or if you're putting it in the fridge. All right, so just some other tips, right? So I try to use the last week of the month as like a cleanup kind of situation in my house. So I try to pull out things that I haven't used yet and put them forefront when I'm meal planning and try to use them up because it really drives me insane to have extra things. So that's something that I like to do. Trying to get that template, trying to design a template for yourself that works for you with planning out your week ahead of time. The USDA does have meal plans already on their website, so that's definitely a great resource to look into and try and just take from someone else's meal plan. Grocery stores have dietitians that you can talk to. Coupons are really great. Like I said, it's fun to like match up what you're shopping for with some coupons or with an app ahead of time, because then you can go into the store with like a mission rather than just like oh, this looks good, I'll try this. And then some other resources. So one of my favorite resources is the Skinny Taste blog. Has anyone heard of this one before? Yeah, so she's great. She puts a meal plan out every week. It's pretty simple to follow. She has like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They have Weight Watchers points, it has calories. It's just really easy, and she does it on the weekend, so you could just go buy her grocery list of things and literally make all of her recipes. And they're things that you can prep ahead of time and store in containers and have for the whole week. It's like really great, basic, helpful. Healthy meal prep cookbook also is really useful. So she goes through all step-by-step of how to meal prep. All the ingredients you need, grocery lists that you would want to have, staples that you want to have in your house, and then also 6 different levels of meal plans. So she has like a weight maintenance one, a clean eating. I think they're all following clean eating, but one's for like weight maintenance, one's for even like muscle. Like it hasn't included a little bit more protein. And I forget what the other category is, but she has 1 or 2 meal plans for each category, which is helpful.